Well, as we look in the great book of sales, we see, thumbing through the pages, here it is in section 15.9.7. The only tool a sales rep has to leverage with prospects is the price. Yes, it says it right there in the great book. Only the price. That's all you can leverage with. Okay, scratch that. You and I both know that's a bunch of cockamamie crap. That stuff's not true. You can leverage with so many more things than price. Price is not even a thing you should be leveraging with. You should focus on building and bringing value to the table first. But oftentimes it seems like sales rep go back to this archaic mentality that comes from a commodity era of bargaining, that's the only way they can leverage with their prospect. That's the only way they can bring something of worth. And we're going to share with you today how that's not the case and why you should not be focusing only on price. You're going to love this episode. This episode is brought to you in part by mailtag.io. It's a Chrome browser extension for your Gmail that allows you to track and schedule your emails. It's a super easy tool to use, and I recommend it for anyone that's in sales. To start a 14-day free trial, go to mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. Learn how to improve your sales skills, find more ideal customers, build stronger value, close more deals. To join the upcoming semester, simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We look forward to having you join us. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, I have a friend of mine going way back since college. His name is Jonathan Dale, and Jonathan's going to talk to us about his experience being a sales leader, one of the big challenges he's had to overcome with his team, and how he's going about fixing that challenge right now, some of the results he's seeing from that. You're going to really love this episode of Sales from the Street. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Donald.
Man, I'm looking forward to chatting with you. There's nothing that I love more than chatting sales, and especially with competent professional sales leaders like yourself, man. So I'm looking forward to hearing some great insights from you. But before we hit up on all the good stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, man?
Yeah, so, I work for a company called RS&I. We're a nationwide company with literally 9 branches throughout the United States, and we've become Dish Network's largest distributor and sales agent. So that means literally if anyone wants the ability to resell Dish Network, they have to go through our company and be able to do that as far as getting equipment and to be able to set up as a sales agent. So we control 27 states in the United States in that regard. And then HughesNet, which is one of the largest satellite internet providers, we also have the same footprint, which ends, just a little bit before the Mississippi River. And then what I do is I manage the Vivint portfolio. So what we do is I look for, people who are wanting to take a secondary sell on in home automation, and I teach them how to keep it simple and take the process, just breaking it down for them, making sure that they can make additional money than what they're currently doing with whatever their primary product they're currently selling is. So.
Absolutely love it, man. So this brings up this interesting point. You probably have so many experiences, not only with the sellers, but with partners and so forth. And that brings a whole level of complexity as a leader. But I'm interested to find out, what's the biggest struggle you've ever had as a sales leader?
Yeah. So, let me just step back a little bit and kind of, it goes back to the number one, to the first day. I started knocking home security in 2009 for a company called Pinnacle, and I learned the art of sale at that point. And I can't say that I loved it, but, I learned it at that point. It wasn't until the following year after I had some failure that I really understood what the sales process was about. And I realized that this is who I really am. It's just a salesperson. But what I had to do is I had to step aside and I had to look at sales a whole different way than what I had before. Because all too common, everyone has this stigma or this, just this mindset that usually prevents them from being successful in the sales industry. And what it is it's a mindset that they have to always sell based off price, right? Mm-hmm. You see that day in and day out, man. And so the biggest struggle that I always work with, even when I was, training new reps in the home home security audit, the home security industry, when I was managing my own door-to-door teams, I had to teach them to become more of a value salesperson versus a commodity sales rep. What I mean by that is just pitch the overall value on the service and stop diluting the service for what it is, but let the customer decide what the spending habit will be. And they will, at that point, you will be able to make the most amount of money because the customer will feel comfortable with where they want to be at versus what we think we want to be at. Because sometimes the sales reps, we want to try to fit the customer into this box, and maybe they don't even fit into that box. And at the end of the day, when we try to force that fit, we lose money, right? Because we end up putting them on a package that we think they need, but at the end of the day, it's not what they need. It's not what they want, and usually leads back to even chargebacks or anything like that. So the biggest struggle that I'm having right now and that I'm working with is I work with over 350 different retailers that take Vivint as a secondary, as a third, or as a fourth line sale, and getting them to understand, like, look, I don't want you to compete on price because that's where you're losing money, but let's just have a quick conversation about the value of the service in total, and then let the customer determine whether or not the decision that they want to make instead of try to force the fit. So
you say, sellers go back to this price thing all the time. Just out of curiosity, why do you feel that's the case, that we only or always run back to price?
Because that's the easier sale, if you think about it. Because, one thing, and this is nothing against, any other salesperson out there, but I made an interesting transition about 2 years ago. And it was actually a detriment for a couple months because I went from home security, which is a total valuable sell, to satellite sales, which at that point was more of a commodity. You go to the door and you pitch, hey, I can save you money. What I realized I was losing money because I wasn't still committing the value, but I think it's the easier sell. So a lot of times people want to take the road of, least resistance, if you will, because no matter how much they think they're going to actually make, they will automatically revert back to this mindset, this commodity mindset, I say. Because in their mind, they're like, oh, well, I only made $100, but that's $100 more than I would have made if I didn't get the sale. When they could have maximized the amount of money they could have made, allow the customer to create value based off benefit selling, not feature selling, but benefit selling, and then letting the customer determine what their spending habit or what their spend limit will be.
Yeah, and I think that's a good part too, because sometimes what we might think is, let me give you an example. I used to sell, one of the first businesses I started working with was we did IT training classes. So I used to sell the class. Bro, the most money my family have ever had, probably at one point in our life, probably was like $3,000. And that was like from a, tax return. Mm-hmm. That was like the Christmas time, the real Christmas time, right? So when I was talking to these clients and they were buying these classes, they were spending $10,000 for a class over the course of like a weekend or a boot camp. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This doesn't make sense. So my limiting belief was like, no one would pay for this. So what do you think happened with my performance? Of course it was lower. Once I was able to realize that these individuals, the return they're getting from $10,000 is like maybe 70, 80 grand. Well, of course it makes sense for them to get that because they get a higher paying job. So they're investing in their future. And if I was trying to sell to Donald, of course, Donald couldn't afford that. My clients, however, weren't Donald, and that made a huge difference. So it brought me to this recognize, like you're saying, to go back to the value side. And once I made that change, it was a hockey stick in performance, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's something I always say to my retailers out there, day in and day out, like, look, stop leading with your own wallet. When you lead with your own wallet, you create this limiting belief. Really, you do, where you're like, oh man, I think they can only afford this. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what our prospect or what our customer spending habits are, or what their spending capabilities are. So let them determine that. And a lot of it has to go with not only the mindset of, the easier sale, but I think a lot of it also has to be with like, are you really convinced in your product? It goes back to you, when you're selling the software, like or the classes. I mean, are you convinced in your product? Do you believe that your product is the best? Because at the end of the day, if you believe that you had the best product in the industry, regardless of what other competitors had, you should not be convinced that your customers are not willing to pay $100, $200, $300, whatever that product is. You should be convinced that your customer would be more than willing to pay that because it's more sophisticated than any other product in the marketplace, right?
Love it, man. Yeah, and that's so true. I want to continue this conversation here because how did you start tackling this now? Or how are you tackling this problem with your team and so forth?
So what I have to do is I live by an acronym that I learned earlier in life called KISS, keep it simple, silly, right? And so what I have to do is I have to teach my retailers this process of like, look, let's take a look. Let's look at the product in total. Let's not try to product spew. Let's not try to give them every single information that you think that they need, because that's not what they need. But let's take a couple key products and let's really sell the benefit of what that could do for them and allow the customer to paint the true picture of what it could do for them. And at the end of the day, instead of, you're still going to get the customer asking you like, hey, John, how much is this going to cost me? Yeah. Instead of you just saying, oh, yeah, I think it's going to cost you like $49. And they're like, oh, I can't afford that. You know what I mean? Instead, continue to build a little bit more value. That's what I teach them. And then when it comes up again, allow the customer to create that value. I'll turn the question around on them. Like, all right, hey, Donald, how about you tell me, how much do you think the service will cost you? After I felt like I built significant enough value, just a couple quick minutes of building quick value with the customer. And if more often than not, the customer will come back to me and be like, oh, I think this cost me like 100, maybe $120. To me, you might think that they're just trying to blow smoke. But to me, I think that's a realistic answer, because then when I drop the real price to them, it'll be a no brainer because they created the value of the service at 120. So that's what I try to keep with my retailers when I teach them this process of value selling versus commodity selling is, hey, just let the customer see the product for what they can do by painting the picture, create scenarios that allows them to actually see the benefit of the service versus just feature selling.
Love it, man.
Does that answer that question?
Oh yeah, dude, you hit that nail on the head there. And I'm so big on it. Like, I've spent more money on products and services when I was going into the mindset that I'm broke or I don't have the money, and only came back down too, because if I was to invest that $3,000, what is the $3,000 going to do for me? That $3,000 could turn into 100 based on the ROI. So it's a no brainer. Just do it. So if a seller came to me and was just only pitching that feature and benefits, like, I'm not about that life. I want things that's going to give me the best return.
Yeah, of course. Everyone wants to know what's in it for them, right? Yeah. What's going to be the biggest return? And, and I think that's how you have to, that's ultimately as a sales rep, that's what you have to keep in the forefront. You have to continually ask that question. Your pitch and just your sales process has to continually revolve around what's in it for them. What's in it for them? Because if they really see that value, that's when, no matter the value of it, they're going to buy, right? Okay. It's like, I was at a conference just beginning of this year, and it was a door-to-door conference. My company's trying to expand. We're wanting to get a presence in the door-to-door industry because a lot of our retailers are not so much door-to-door guys; they're just brick-and-mortar folks. And so, I was looking for a new accountant, and I saw this accountant group, just a couple booths down from me, and I went over there and had a conversation, and they literally said, everything that I wanted to hear, right? And to me, it was like a no-brainer. Call me a laydown. I guess I was a laydown at that point, right? A laydown stuff. But I didn't even know what the value, how much it was going to cost me, right? They didn't even give me cost. They didn't even follow up to me until a week later. But still, the value exceeded the cost. Even though that this accountant will be far more expensive than the accountant that I currently use, the value that she is going to provide me exceeds what I currently receive. So therefore, I justify the increase. You know what I mean?
From you guys doing this change and this shift in mindset, how are you guys seeing the results now in your organization?
It's funny that you say that because, when we bring out new ideas, especially on the retailer side, right, just in the sales organization, because my customers, these retailers, I have to pitch them on the idea of selling Vivint as a third or fourth or fifth line sale. Yeah. When I have to introduce them a new idea, like, hey, your industry at the end of the day is, trending towards becoming obsolescent, right? So let's introduce a new way. Let's show you a better way to sell, a more difficult way at times, but you can make a little bit more money. And to get the buy-in on it, what I have to do as a leader, and believe it or not, man, I spend a lot of time on the road. I travel about 60%, and I literally get down in the trenches with my retailers. I show them how to do it, how to make the changes. I have to be able to be that example for my retailers. So whether I'm getting a typical brick and mortar guy to step out of his comfort zone and go knock doors, I'm okay doing that. or if I'm trying to get a guy who's knocking doors to open a call center, I'm okay with showing him how to do that, making those steps to do that. So
that's amazing, man. That's the way it is. It makes a much better result, I feel, in the long run for the whole team. Love that, man.
Yeah, because if you continue going down the road that's not giving you any results, at the end of the day, you're not doing yourself any good. You're only doing yourself completely negative. And that's what's problem with sales altogether. Sometimes we get in this mode of comfort, regardless if we're seeing a decrease in sales or an increase in sales, we just get comfortable. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the sales world is that it's living, it's evolving, it constantly changes, right? New ideas, new processes are constantly being brought up. And I think, if you fail not to study, if you fail not to keep up with the times, you're going to get left behind to where you will have to shut your doors. So,
love it, man. If there's one major piece of advice you'd like folks listening to this episode to walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice?
Just anything I told any of my reps when I was knocking doors or any of my retailers, just go out and have fun. The sales process is such a fun way to learn about how people think. Go out there and figure out what people are thinking, how they're thinking it, and become that person that's able to overcome any sort of, issues that come up throughout the sales process. Be forward thinking. And that's what makes it fun, is being forward thinking. So
love it, man. If folks out there want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to go about connecting with you?
The best way to reach me is just, you can always send me a quick email. The email they can reach out to me is jon.dale@rsinc.com.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today, bringing some of these great sound wisdom for us and helping us to improve our skills. It's an awesome opportunity to learn from leaders like yourself, man. So thank you.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Listen, Jonathan is the real deal, and I recommend you go ahead and connect with him to find more information about Jonathan, his organization, and perhaps there's a way that you can benefit from their services. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1034. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1034. You can also connect with Jonathan on social media, specifically LinkedIn and some of the other platforms. Again, dude is really cool. Go back to college with him, and he is just a real deal. I love his sincerity and his ability to really genuinely connect with individuals. And I think that's one of the ways that he's seen one of the reasons why he's seen such great success. Again, find all the information in the show notes to salesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1034. While you're there, also connect with MailTag. Because you are an exclusive member of the TSE community, you get an exclusive offer. MailTag will give you 14-day free of MailTag. And when you fall in love with it, they'll give you 50% off your subscription for life. Can't beat that deal. Go back to the show notes. Also, be sure to check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. It is our newly developed sales program, and it's all around you. It's all built for the sales rep to help the sales rep improve sales, to find the best prospects, to say the right things, to do the right things to help the deals progress and to close the deals. To find more information, to learn more and see if it's something that can benefit you and your team, go back to the show notes. We have a link there as well. I do this because I want to help. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you to challenge yourself to go out each and every single day and do big things. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode today as much as I did. And if so, I ask that you go ahead and hit subscribe. And when you do, go ahead and show your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues how they can subscribe as well. It would be greatly appreciated. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy fine podcasts. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.